what I tell people all the time is starting as a pre-med. You
Mm.
have this mentality of I will take whatever you give me. Kaleb, you've unsolicited advice, but several times in our conversation so far, in even a non-self-deprecating way, you've said, "Hey, I don't know who's going to see this, or I'm not good enough, or I wasn't good enough. I didn't have this mentality yet." That's a mentality I think that everyone has. I'm not good enough, or you're comparing yourself to other people. I'm just going to take whatever you give me because I'm lucky for the opportunity. No, no, no. You bring tremendous value. Don't put yourself down. If you put yourself down, then you're serving up to other people. Hey, like, you don't have to think that much of me because I don't think that much of myself. Like, you don't want people to advocate for you better than you can advocate for yourself. But like, I tell people all the time, you're on this conveyor belt. I will take whatever you give me through the residency match, through the fellowship match, and then it gets to your job, and you're like, I'll take what you give me, and then you get taken advantage of, and then you burn out.
What is going on, nerds? This is Kaleb. I'm a medical student interviewing interesting people during his research year. And welcome to today's episode of More Than Medicine, where we dive into the inspiring journey of Dr. Paul Tran, a pediatric gastroenterologist and medical educator. Today we explore his unique path from competitive figure skating to medicine and how his passion for mentorship and education is shaping the future of healthcare. We also discuss the challenges and triumphs of balancing content creation with medicine, and he provides us some insights into treating learners as future colleagues. Whether you're a medical student, a professional, or just someone curious about the medical field, I promise you this episode is packed full of lessons and inspiration. Stay tuned. Let's get after it. Alrighty, Dr. Tran, welcome to the show.
Thanks, but I will leave if you call me Dr. Tran again.
See, I had to get one in. I'm sorry. It's trauma. Quite honestly, it is. I walked into my research year, and one of the first things that we had to get off the table was, hey, don't call me by my first name. That was one of my attendings. And I said, yes, sir. And every single doctor I talk to now is reflexively going to be Dr. So-and-so. But I appreciate you let me call you Dr. Tran. Okay.
Old habits die hard.
Paul. Can I call you Paul?
Please.
Thanks for coming on today. For those of us that don't know you, I would like you to please share what it is you do for a living.
It's more of a question of what do I not do, since I seem to have like 10 to 12 plates spinning at any given time. But professionally, I'm a pediatric gastroenterologist, actually a pediatric GI hospitalist, so I spend a lot of time on call without clinic. I'm a medical educator. I teach at 2 schools. I'm a clerkship director for the pediatric clerkship at one school and a specialty advisor for 4th years going into pediatrics at another. And I also do medical education research, do a lot of mentoring. And then I also, professionally, I guess, I am a content creator where I talk a lot about medical education online as my platform, Elementary School.
Oh, yeah. You do run a little Instagram account, a small one. You got some
Just starting out. It's been a great 4 years, and I'm learning every single day. I'm like, this is something new every single day.
What's the most recent thing you learned from this journey?
I learned that I think I consistently learn that people you don't expect to see your content will see your content even outside of the niche that you're in. And I think people reaching out like, friend of a friend at a birthday party. It's like, oh my gosh, I've seen your stuff before. I know no one in medicine, that kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And because of today's algorithms, content goes everywhere. Even if I'm really niched down, not even in medicine, not even medical education, like medical education of certain populations, medical students and early residents, it still can go elsewhere. So I think it's a good lesson of, especially if you're making content that's potentially going in front of patients or you're sharing opinions, that content can go anywhere. So you really have to be mindful of what you say and how you say it.
Right. That sounds like some excellent advice. For everybody listening, I have a small account of 4,500. I think we're getting close to. And I just started posting medically related memes, literally, because I wanted to. I posted 2 or 3 every day for a month. Before I knew it, I looked down at my little studio highlights and I had over 1 million views. And I was like,
Pretty
Okay.
awesome feeling.
It's yeah, okay, it was a little bit of like, "Good job, buddy," like, you posted a bunch of memes, and then I was like, one of the things I'm also passionate about, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is mentorship, and as a first generation student, I've had to figure this whole game out on my own, from getting into a DO program, the MCAT, that whole process, to navigating potentially going into a competitive specialty without a home program, feeling absolutely lost. I want to give back as much as possible because I've had the only reason I'm here is because of amazing people like you who come into the profession with that motivation and that intention to give back to those coming behind them. So first off, I want to say thank you for everything that you're doing. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure a lot of other people do as well. Uh, But what would you, let's actually, what I forgot to mention before we hopped online was I like to dive into these people that we see potentially online, or maybe we don't see them having such a strong presence, but they're having a lot of impact. I like to talk to them and see what built that person that you're seeing on the screen potentially. So, would you mind walking me back to your childhood and how you grew up and how you've, maybe found medicine, if that came early or if that came in college?
Yeah, well, I appreciate your kind words. I think you're attributing a lot to the right people. If I have a small impact, that's humbling to hear. And honestly, it means that what I'm doing is right on point because that's my intention and my mission. But I thank you regardless. I think a lot of my upbringing was very unique, and all these little bits and pieces have made me the entertainer, performer, educator that I am today. I mean, I grew up in a Vietnamese household. My parents were refugees, and I think like most immigrant kids or children of immigrants, and especially Southeast Asian ones, there's a pressure for academic aptitude and achievement. We were very much achievement focused. It was
Mm.
always education first, although we took a detour for most of my childhood because I was a competitive figure skater for a decade and my
Wow.
life was
Okay.
consumed by figure skating. That was
That's
that was pretty much like
awesome.
early in the morning, then school, then picking up early from school to go train, and then homework, and then rinse and repeat. Nothing fun.
Oh,
Yeah, it was an interesting childhood, but then I went to
yeah.
college, and I think I lived my high school years in college and then my college years in med school. My wife always tells me I'm like 4 years stunted, probably because of the figure skating. But I think
You
for
peaked in med
me,
school.
I peaked in med school. No, I would say I peaked in residency, I think.
Cool. All right. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, there's time. There's time if you haven't peaked yet. I would say that my interest in education probably started in college and then medical school because of those people I met along the way. I met people who really inspired me to think differently. It wasn't a you can do it. It was why are you doing it? Why are
Mhm.
you wanting these things? Why are you pursuing this? Why do you want what you say you want? And really pushing with a very precisely guided laser, if you will. So I think when you think about mentorship overall,
Yeah.
to me, the person that I'm looking for most is someone who tells me what I need to hear, even if I don't want to hear it. And I had a lot of those people along the way. And I'm really thankful for those people because
Mhm.
it's not always nice to hear in the moment, but looking back, it's like, wow, you told me exactly what I needed to hear. And if you hadn't, I could have had an inflection point that looks a lot different.
Yeah. No, it was the same for me. was, yeah, sure. I shadowed in an OR one time and I was like, this is cool. I could pop open somebody's knee and go to town. Like that would be cool. But it wasn't until I got into the ER and I met my first mentor, the very first guy I ever interviewed for this thing, Dr. Nesbitt. And he saw a version of his story in me from talking to me. And he reached back and said, hey, you need some help. You've got some blind spots and I want to help. He's like, so tell me. I was like, what do I need to do for you to be my mentor? I hear you do a lot of great mentoring. What do I need to do? He said, just ask me. Like, just ask me. I said, okay, will you be my mentor? He said, absolutely. And that's been a relationship we've kept going ever since. Right. And how is your early experience? Because how many years are you into being an attending?
I'm now in my 4th year. So I finished 3 full years of attending HUD and then starting the 4th.
Okay. And how have those first few years, have you had the opportunity to really one-on-one with people that have kind of just stumbled into your field of vision there? How's that been?
Oh, many. I would say that is almost in itself a full-time job. At a certain point, I realized I had to cap the number of people I mentored because I was spreading myself too thin, and then I was actually taking away from everyone by mentoring more and more and more people. So I certainly didn't want to jeopardize or sacrifice the quality of mentees for the quantity. And that, I think, it's a hard lesson to learn. You want to reach more and more and more and more people. It's that social media mindset. And you realize that sometimes just spending a quality 30-minute long, hour long, or longer conversation with someone, just one single person can have profound impact that you might not even know. A lot of people have stumbled or volunteered themselves or reached out to me, or I've sought in the past 3.5 years. It's been one of the most rewarding things I've experienced professionally. And I love what you said about that mentor telling you, just ask me. A lot of the times we don't, what I call, define the relationship. We don't DTR the mentoring relationship.
No.
And you take it for granted. You don't set clear goals and expectations. A mentor doesn't know what's expected of them. A mentee doesn't know what's expected of them. Loss of communication, miscommunication. And I think it just doesn't add to a rich relationship, even if it works for whatever your immediate goal is. I think it's really important to value your time. To do a really good job at anything, you need to have preparation, you need to have expertise, you need to be able to have the attention. I think the greatest gift you can give someone is your full attention and your time. That's the one resource that never goes away. Excuse me. Time is the one resource that you can never get back.
Right.
I think once you give it, it's gone.
Have you had relationships where there was a miscommunication and in expectations where they didn't really know what to ask you, or maybe you weren't even equipped at the moment? You were still learning how to be a good mentor and there was some mismatch there.
Not necessarily. I haven't had yet a mentoring relationship as a mentor where I've had to say, hey, you know what? I don't think this relationship is something that's working. It's the best interests of your time as a mentee or my time as a mentor. I haven't had that. I've had the opposite, where I've had a mentoring relationship where I was not getting anything that I needed from a mentor who had explicitly agreed to deliverables. Namely, in an academic mentoring relationship, like review of papers for graduation, review of papers for authorship, timely correspondence for these things. I actually waited for over a year to hear back for my a final manuscript and project. And at that point, I was like, cut my losses. I don't really need this anymore. This is not something that I'm going to spend any more time on.
You know, what's a good mentor then? You've mentioned it. You actually touched on it a little bit, but somebody that calls out your blind spots. I've had good and bad mentors, but just kind of lay it out there. Say, this is what, and this is purely from your standpoint. This is not what you think everybody else should be doing, but this is like kind of your mantra for how you want to guide your guiding principles for students.
I think a good mentoring relationship, again, is individualized.
Mm-hmm.
It's very personal, but some broad tenets of what I've seen and also from what I've wanted are someone who sets clear expectations right from the start. I mentioned the DTR. That's something that I do now because I wish someone had done it for me. That is, hey, as a mentor, my expectation is that if there is a project or a deadline or an application, whatever, that you take charge and you take full responsibility for materials that are due, something like that. And these are all examples, but I have a lot on my plate and I need you as the owner of that project, as the first author, as the person who owns that to take responsibility for that. If you tell me that you need help, I'm happy to give it, but I can't be the person that's responsible for that, something like that. And then I tell people what communication should look like. So something that I say right now, and this is one of my most repeated phrases for my mentees, is something along the lines of, hey, you have a 48-hour window, which is if you reply or you send me a text message or an email, you have 48 hours to get a response from me. If I don't respond in that time, you are now outside of that window and you can feel free to text me. You can call and spam me because it's now my responsibility. It's in my court to get back to you. And I failed to do so outside of this predetermined 48-hour window. So I almost take off the hurdle, the burden of, shoot, I don't want to bother Paul. He's so busy right now. He's on call or he's with his family. No, I've already told you 48 hours. Give me that time. Or I might say a week. Or I might say different things for different people or for different projects of different calibers, whatever it is, but we have something agreed upon from the get-go so that you never feel bad about reaching out because we've both agreed to it.
Dude, that's solid. Thank you, because I think a lot of people, not that millions of people are going to hear this, but I think
you never know.
Hey, I mean, there are physicians out there that want to be mentors and they mean very, very well, but there is a skill set to be developed. There's a skill set to be honed, and there are communication methods. You can't just establishing yourself as an attending in that role. Like you made it to the fellowship, you made it to that residency, you've been an attending for a few years, maybe you've made some money and you're feeling high on life. That doesn't necessarily give you the badge of mentor. I think mentorship is definitely an earned privilege built off of successfully helping others coming along the way. And if there was like a referral service for mentors, I wish we could do that. Maybe we should do I'm just kidding. But who are those people along your path, going back to your story and how you fell into medicine? Who are those people early on that really made an impression on you and helped guide you to where you're at?
I don't think of this person as a mentor, but I think of someone who had an indelible impact on my life to this day. His name is Dr. Pete Nichols. He was a PhD turned AP biology and human geography teacher at my high school in Colorado. And this is a PhD who comes in every single day like, what's up, goobers? Like very much a character. He gave every single person in his class a nickname. He would write these super hilarious test questions, like something along the lines of, Paul Tran's going down a water slide in his leopard G-string. He doesn't want to expose himself to the ladies down at the bottom, and he goes and does a graceful swan dive into the pool. Eukaryotes differ from prokaryotes by what 3 things, or like something just completely ridiculous. But the energy, the enthusiasm, and really the humor that he injected into his classroom, the life that he brought, and ultimately the attitude that he brought, that he wasn't better than us, as you alluded to. He's a PhD teaching high school students. He never made mention of the fact that he's a doctor, like he has a doctorate. He just was there and he was beloved. And he's someone who really made me inspired to A, pursue science, B, educate and inspire other people, regardless of where they are. And it goes back to my mantra now, which is treat learners like the future colleagues that they are. I mean, he viewed me in a way as a future colleague, or I felt that way. I felt empowered when I went into his class. So that's someone who's amazing in my memory. He'll always be in the Mount Rushmore of people who impacted me.
Oh, dude, that's special, man. I'm similar in that, like, I fell in love with tutoring in chemistry. I got to lead workshops in general chemistry, organic chemistry, and people don't want somebody, they want somebody that genuinely freaking cares about what they're going through. And I couldn't help but see that in the students, because I was literally just there taking it, struggling. Let's have fun with this. Let's have a good time. And I love the feedback. Not that I was an amazing tutor or whatever, but just that, like, I made a positive impact. And that definitely propelled me into what I'm doing now. Wasn't smart enough in med school to tutor. I didn't get that privilege, unfortunately. But what was your med school experience like? I'm sure we've got a lot to talk about there.
Yeah, it was all right. I feel like I had this desire to be something great, to be the best. And I think I was very mediocre.
Yeah.
I was a mediocre med student. That doesn't mean that I was bad. It's just average. I tried hard, but I don't think that I applied myself where I could have. I definitely prioritized a lot of my social life, which, again, med school was my college in a way. I think I didn't know myself in terms of where my weaknesses are, in terms of attention, in terms of study habits, in terms of time management, in terms of developing relationships with mentors. I didn't have that savagery, I guess, that beast mode, that killer instinct, Mamba mentality, whatever you want to call it. I definitely didn't get that until maybe my 4th year of med school, and definitely into residency. So med school was just med school for me. It was a lot of fun.
It's so crazy, the people I talk to on the show with, the similarities, because I've talked to an orthopedic surgeon, an emergency medicine physician, entrepreneur, and both of them came into med school with that savage beast mode. And I kind of felt a little like, because I'm more like you. I was like nosing the books in college. And so when I got to med school, I was finally around people that I actually enjoyed being around. I could actually hold conversations with. It was kind of like my own version of college, the first 2 years. And hence why I'm on a research year, because I clearly didn't, for the goals that I had set for myself, one of them being possibly orthopedic surgery, there's nothing stand out about me. I've got to go make sure myself is stand out. So I'm a few months in right now, and I'm starting to unlock that beast mode. But what were your goals early on? Did you always want to be a, pediatric GI guy, or did you have other aspirations that that you feel comfortable enough sharing?
No, I had a roundabout path. It led back to pediatrics. My experience in med school was really informed by a pre-med experience where I saw a pediatric geneticist give a diagnosis of Prader-Willi syndrome to a very, very successful family. And I saw the compassion and empathy and patience within that conversation. I was like, I definitely want to have that level of impact. I want to be a pediatrician for that. Came in thinking pediatrics, and then pretty quickly realized I wanted to be a thinker and a doer. I didn't want to just be a diagnostician and prognosticate all day. I wanted to also do things and turn to ENT, actually. So most of my med school, like preclinical into early clinical, was thinking ENT and studying for step 1 at the time, scored like I was going to go into ENT, and then realized very quickly that I didn't like the OR. I loved the surgery or the procedural aspect, but not the OR. And then found pediatric GI my first rotation of 4th year. It was my first elective, and I was handed an endoscope, and I got to do EGDs, some colonoscopies, and I was like, I am hooked. This is how you hook someone to your specialty. Give them some, autonomy and let them do something safely. And it was like playing video games. I was like, that's what I want to do the rest of my career. I get to do both. So I went into residency thinking pediatric GI and never looked back. I was like one of the few who went into residency knowing exactly what subspecialty I was going to do.
Dude, that's awesome. So I didn't even think about it until I looked. Yeah, of course I had to do a little bit of research into who I'm talking to. And when I see pediatric, because the way that you come off is, don't take this the wrong way. It's very youthful. It's very pleasant, and, props to your skin routine, all the game. I didn't know you were an attending. I was like, this guy just graduated. This guy just had to just graduate. Like, he seems really chill, really down to earth.
Some people are really shocked when they realize I'm not a medical student.
Well, you play one on TV so well, right?
Yeah.
But pediatric GI, I had never even considered that. Pediatrics, for the record, was one of my favorite rotations. And explain to other people that might not even know this is a field about the wonders of pediatric GI. What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
That's a great question whenever you're exploring a field. You don't want to ask the best part. You want to ask the normal part, the bread and butter, the mundane or everyday is what I call
job.
it. And yeah, the job and the Tuesday, if you will. What is the Tuesday? Not the Friday night. Tuesday for me, for most pediatric gastroenterologists, it's mostly an outpatient job that you actually spend at least a day or a half day every single week doing procedures. So you get to do procedures as a weekly part of your job. You see patients. The bread and butter really is constipation, pooping problems, puking problems, vomiting and GERD, reflux, and growing problems, malnutrition, and then kind of a bucket of diagnostic. Like you have unexplained abdominal pain or nausea or vomiting, or growth problems that needs to be explained by something else. So I call it general pediatricians who get to do cool procedures and then get to really subspecialize into certain conditions that can cause a world of hurt if left untreated or undiagnosed. Inflammatory bowel disease, liver disease, and celiac disease, other conditions like that. So it's the best of both worlds to me. You get to be a thinker, you get to be a doer, you get the variety of all of pediatrics, and you do a lot of core pediatrics things, but you're also at the end of the day a subspecialist, and you could be an uber subspecialist if you wanted. You could be an esophagologist specializing in EOE or eosinophilic esophagitis. You could be a pancreatologist. You don't have to have just one organ system. So you can go as deep as you really want or as general as you want within a subspecialty. I love the variety and the versatility of it.
Dude, that's amazing. So I'm going to nerd out for a second, unashamedly. What is the most common, you said the pooping problems and the nausea problems. What are a lot of things that kids are going through or suffering from growing up that may be going underdiagnosed, that maybe need an intervention from someone like yourself?
Oh, 1000% it's constipation. That's one of the most common, if not the most common thing that we see. A lot of the times, the thing that we see is something called encoparesis, which is overflow incontinence. It's essentially accidents in underwear. And it's attributed a lot of the time to poor hygiene. Hey, these school-age kids, like think about like your 5, 6-year-old boy who's having a lot of accidents in their underwear. School nurse has to call parents. Parents have to leave work, pick them up. It's embarrassing. They get made fun of. They might smell. It's a shame cycle. Parents are like, why don't you clean yourself better? The kid's like, I don't know. They don't even know it's happening. It leads to this incredible anxiety and this social judgment. And it's so common. It's probably the thing that people don't know enough about. And when I can spend time explaining what it is, I can spend time explaining that, when you're constipated, think about it like it's a standstill traffic after a wreck on the highway and everything's shut down. And then what leaks through? It's motorcycles. Motorcycles weave in and out of traffic when everything's moving, or if everything's slowed down. And what you're seeing come out in the accidents in the underwear, it's really motorcycles. So what do? You got to get the flow of traffic going, move all the poop out, and then now the motorcycles just flow with the traffic and you don't see them anymore. And then I explain all of this in really vivid analogies. I draw pictures, and I would say in 20 minutes of explaining everything, I can make such tremendous impact. It reminds me of how rewarding pediatrics and especially pediatric GI is, because I can spend relatively very, very little resource, time, energy for massive impact, especially over the life of a child. You know, and I think in other fields that I explored, I felt like it was massive amounts of resources, time, energy, and very little relative impact. So that's one of the things I love about the field.
That's amazing. So do you get sent people, you get referred most of the time for most of your patients, I would assume?
Yeah. So as subspecialists, we get referred.
Oh yeah, you're I apologize. You're getting called in the hospital and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Well, like the field itself, like we see only referrals. For me as a hospitalist, or a GI hospitalist, I'm really only in the hospital on call.
Okay. Cool. No, it's fascinating. Tell me about, you said, when did you start doing the YouTube, not the YouTube, but the skits and stuff?
Well, I started on social media the last half of my third year of fellowship. So right at the end of fellowship. And I just wanted to fill a gap. I felt like no one was really encouraging and inspiring, especially medical students and residents. It was like the first year of medical school experience completely romanticized, and then the residency experience completely, chaotic, and nothing in between. So I wanted to address that in a positive way, an encouraging way. And then I realized that the talking heads and giving advice wasn't necessarily having the same reach and level of impact as humor. So I went into memes for a brief period of time, and then moved into my favorite show type of content. The Office is my favorite show of all time. And a lot of my skits are based on The Office, just because I've watched every episode like 10 times. And that's something that I enjoy watching. So I was like, oh, I enjoy doing and making, and maybe other people will enjoy it too. And I've been really lucky that it's resonated.
It really hits home, man. Because I was in the midst of my third year rotations when I first saw your videos, and I sent them to so many people. I was just on Instagram. I was like, dude, this med student absolutely gets it. I thought you were in the midst of your med school recording. I was like, how does he have the time to record this?
Is he worried about evaluations, or like what are they going to do when they catch him?
Exactly. And was it scary? Did you have any, fear of people not necessarily liking that you were recording yourself at whatever facility you were at and making these amazing contributions to the medical literature?
Oh, the PubMed index videos.
Yes.
I'm always mindful. I'm not ashamed as much as I don't want to intrude on other people's work. So someone just spotted it recently on a video, but I come into the hospital really early, or I stay really late, or I do it on the weekends. Someone noted that like, oh, it's 6:50 in the morning when I was filming. I was like, that's the tail end of our filming. We've been filming for an hour at that point, So I try to be mindful around people who are working. I don't film in patient spaces. We have an office building that I film the most of my stuff in. And then after hours when no one's around, I'm really mindful of institutional social media policies. And I think that's where a lot of people can go wrong. Like, you're not above what the rules are of your institution or your school or your program. You need to be able to know what the boundaries are, and that might require a conversation, but you need to abide by social media policies. You need to be respectful of employers, of absolutely of patience. And I think those boundaries are sometimes difficult to learn for people starting out. So I always try to be extremely mindful, and even have a mental checklist of things that I do before filming a video. Like, is my badge on? Are other people around? If they are, what are they doing? Are they far off in the background? Are people can people come into the view of the camera? Are there going to be branded logos around? Anything like that.
Right. Who helped you film these?
I have two friends. I had a friend named Luke who helped me for a little over a year, probably about a year and a half before moving away. Before that, I was just cobbling. I was like, "Hey, anyone around? Can you help me hold a camera?" Or I was
That's
using a tripod. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So what was the first video that caught traction?
The first one that I remember actually going, like, the first memorable one, even if it's not the first big one, was you're with a pediatrics resident. Like, it was on your pediatrics rotation and all the things that pediatricians say or pediatric residents say, like, but the viral panel doesn't test for everything. Or have you tried Tylenol yet for the fever? Talking about Bluey and Blippy, all the kids shows. That's one. I think my first Oski skit was probably
That's one of my favorites. That's one of my
That's
favorites.
probably
Yeah.
one of the biggest ones that that came into, like, I would say, worldwide recognition. That was like one of the 2 million plus ones, and also one of the ones that showed me the boundary, because I got a little wrist slap for that very, very first Oski video I did at the beginning of 2024. I was wearing a white coat with a medical school's name or emblem on it. I was borrowing a student's white coat, and people were like, "Oh, you can't show that. You didn't ask the school for permission." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? This is really good press for you. This is millions of views in a week. This is like amazing recruiting." And they're like, "Doesn't matter." So I was like, "Okay." So I stopped ever filming at that school. So I never did it again.
Yeah. I tried to be very, very cognizant of that as well, because I had a couple little skits I did in my freaking bedroom, and I went as far as, like, I had a piece of paper, taped it over my thing. And have there been any other wrist slaps or anything gets you into trouble?
I've been very fortunate because, again, I think part of the diligent process, I'm almost on the point of paranoid, because my platform is intentionally non-patient facing for a reason. I want no part of clinical or patient facing content at all. That's just something I don't want smoke for. But B, that's my job. And I'm like, this is a hobby. This is something I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
If I wanted to do that stuff, I'll turn to my clinical job and do it in person with a patient, right? Like, I'll teach, I'll advocate. I don't need to do that to the masses on social media. So that's a very important distinction for me. A lot of people talk about clinical stuff all the time, and I think that's just a decision you have to make as a creator. I would say
Right.
the only wrist slaps that I've gotten otherwise are, they're not really wrist slaps. They're more just not tips of the caps, if you will, to, like, "Hey, we see what you're doing on social media. Keep up the good work. Wink. We're watching you." Like, if you ever slip up, if you ever, like, cross these boundaries, we'll nail you, like, kind of deal.
Yeah, and I won't pry too much into who is doing that, but I do want to dive into your planning and your scheming, because you seem like a planner. Okay. First, I want to dive into, was there always a plan for a platform? Obviously, we've established that any platform you have, you're going to use to help and benefit other people. And again, props to you. Appreciate it. We need it. But was the intention with creating content always to level up your ability to reach other people and have the bigger impact that you saw for yourself?
In a way, not at all. My wife
Okay.
told me, "Well, what is the goal when you started I mean, she reflected on about a year after I started. And when we started, she was like,
Mhm.
what is your goal? I said, I don't know, maybe like 20, 25,000 followers on TikTok. Because I started primarily on TikTok.
Yeah.
My Instagram got big after a couple years, but I've always seen myself as a TikToker. And I said 20, 25,000. And she's like, why? I was like, that seems to me like a fairly decent audience to get a lot of medical students. Like I want to talk to medical
Yeah.
students and residents. So now when I look and I'm like, geez, what happened? Like, this is insane. That's a huge gift for me. It really shows the impact that's kind of grown its own legs. For me,
Mhm.
it's always been about impact. A lot of people don't know this, but you can look at my stuff. I have never, ever posted on a brand deal, ever. I've done a single collaboration, and it was for a live. I did a live on a med ed product. I got paid for that. I've never done a post before because I don't really see myself as an influencer. I've never had a goal or an aim of monetization, probably to my own detriment because I've spent way too much time on this. Um,
Yeah.
and it's gotten to the point where it's like I could be making not a lot, I'm a pediatrician, but I could be making relatively a lot more than zero, infinitely more
Yeah.
than zero money by seeing patients, by doing more clinical work. And I choose to do things like this and educational lectures. So it has gotten to the point where, to your point, hey, you got to value your time. I'm like, how do I make this sustainable? Because right now, at the rate that I'm going, it's not sustainable. Yet I don't want
Mhm.
to just promote for the sake of money. That goes
Yeah.
against my mission.
Yeah.
I've always thought about to myself, like when I do want to partner with people, they have to share the same mission and I have to bring value to the community that I've built. And if I don't bring value in what I'm doing, then why am I doing it? So
Mhm.
that's a huge thing for me. I am really in the process now of, instead of collaborations, instead of partnerships, I'm looking beyond to sponsors, which in a way it's how do I work with people who sponsor me to achieve a greater mission. That's what I think is a little bit of a difference. A collaboration as it exists on influencer marketing and brand deals, it's
Yeah.
me promoting the brand. And here
Mhm.
I want to find ways for brands to empower me to reach people. I think it may sound very similar, but it's been a different mindset for me. So
I
yeah.
haven't even thought about that. Because you're talking about from the standpoint of there's a few podcasts that I follow. One of them is Founders, where this guy just inhales biographies and distills them down to the biggest takeaways from history's greatest founders. And more recently, there's a sponsor, and he starts talking, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this is brought to you by this." But then he still gets to that empowers him, obviously financially, to continue to spend his time doing that and sharing the information that he wants to share. Versus, I'll see an influencer, a medfluencer, if you will, hop up and promote some new doctor AI tool or something or another. That's kind of what you're getting at, is what I'm assuming.
I think that's the difference, really, in looking at it between short form and long form brand deals or collaborations.
Okay.
The world that I live in is short form. That's the
Uh-huh.
only way that it works, because now, especially on TikTok, what is it? Like every 3 or 4 swipes is an ad. And you're
Yeah.
inundated with ads. The only way you can participate in it is to be an ad yourself. Right? So you create the content that's the ad because it's short form. The ad is in the space of where the video would be. I have never had interest in doing that, and I don't think I ever will have interest in doing that. I think about it more like the YouTube model, which is what you're describing, the YouTube or the podcast model, which is, here is our episode. It's brought to you by a sponsor. The sponsor is not taking over the entirety of the content. They
No.
can't possibly afford an hour and a half, riffing podcasts. to sponsor to be mentioned throughout the entire thing, but for 1-2 mentions at the beginning or in the middle, or just say, hey, this sponsor enabled me, protected my time so that I can bring you value.
Yeah.
That's huge. That to me is like, oh, that makes so much sense. Of course I'll watch a YouTube ad if I get to watch this Alex Hormozi video in entirety and consume all this wisdom, or Vin Zhang is a communications expert I love. Oh, of course I'll watch an ad that's 30 seconds and I can't skip through it because of the value that he's bringing. This is like free game.
Free game. Free game is my favorite thing. Alex Hormozi is a guy that I've listened to as well. I actually stumbled into one of his funnels recently because he gave away his last book, Pay for Shipping. And I knew that's one of his things. But the bundle was so great. You get all 3 of them. I was like, there you go. But I've gotten so much from watching all of his long form content that I didn't bat an eye at spending $15 to do something that he worked hard on, and I appreciate it. I get a lot of value from it. You don't have a book on the way, do you?
I don't. I've thought about maybe an ebook that I've thought about just giving away for free. I created a Discord, just a free mentoring community that's private.
Okay.
I just wanted to provide like value, like in a Reddit like space that's not quite Reddit. That I could share advice freely and openly with people, and then people could maybe collaborate with each other and help build each other up. It's almost like create the community you wish you were a part of. Like I wanted to do that for students and for trainees. So about a month ago, I started one after I went to the American Academy of Pediatrics. And that's the big thing right there. Alex Hormozi has amazing marketing things, and he said, he's almost a proponent in a way of, or at least he's inspired me to be more B2B, like business oriented rather than D2C or direct to consumer. At the end of the day, my audience are medical students and our residents, and like how do you empower them? I think like you need the resources of bigger brands to do like big things, I think. So
yeah. And dude, I wish I could get the inside scoop, but I'm actually just going to enjoy watching your journey as it goes forward. And when it comes out, I'll send you a DM and say, dude, this is awesome, thank you so much. But back to your
big things
scheming.
coming in 2026. Big things coming.
Everybody hear that? 2026 elementary school. You heard it here first. But back to the scheming, because something that I came across in doing my research on you is you were very methodical about becoming not just a pediatric GI specialist, but in finding a job afterwards. And that is not even something and I thought I was a planner. I thought I was really good about looking ahead. Tell me about your planning for your career and where that all started. Did it start in medical school? Did it start in residency? Because that's a different mindset that I want everybody to hear, because it's very, very important.
Well, I knew that I wanted education to be a big part of my career. I knew that since residency, but definitely going into fellowship interviews, I went to every single fellowship interview saying, I'm going to be a big E educator. I'm not just going to be a bedside teacher. I'm going to be like, that's everyone. I'm going to be a big E educator. I'm going to make an impact in the education of our future colleagues, of our future physicians and healthcare workers broadly. What can you do to help me? What do you have for me to accomplish that vision? Not what can I do for you? I came in pretty with that dog mentality, that Mamba mentality we're talking about, that savagery. It really came with that, because I was like, that's what I want to do. I won't be happy if I do something else. So I went through fellowship thinking that, and I knew right away that those jobs are not hard to come by, but people kind of put together packages that they want rather than what you want. So early on in fellowship, I knew that I needed to start the process early. So I started that in my second year of fellowship. started reaching out. I never wrote a single cover letter. I had a CV updated, but I just reached out to people who I knew. I networked to find jobs. I reached out to people who I knew and I said, hey, I really admire, and it had to be people I really admire too, but I really admire what you do and the position that you're in. How did you get to that position? How did someone enable you? Like, if you're doing it now at your job, that means your boss must support what you're doing. How do I find a boss like that? And the majority of those conversations became, well, you should talk to my boss. Here's how they did it. You should talk to my boss. An organic connection between them and their boss. I would talk to the boss and they're like, let's bring you out for an interview. Just like that. So I never had to write a letter of, this is what I want. I started it through conversation and through networking. And I finished the interview process before most of my peers around the country started their own process. That's not to toot my own horn. That's to say there was value in being early. There was value in doing this before the masses. And we need to borrow a little bit from fields outside of medicine, because what I tell people all the time is starting as a pre-med, you have this mentality of, I will take whatever you give me. Kaleb, you've unsolicited advice, but several times in our conversation so far, in even a non-self-deprecating way, you've said, hey, I don't know who's going to see this, or I'm not good enough, or I wasn't good enough. I didn't have this mentality yet. That's a mentality I think that everyone has. I'm not good enough, or you're comparing yourself to other people. I'm just going to take whatever you give me because I'm lucky for the opportunity. No. You bring tremendous value. Don't put yourself down. If you put yourself down, then you're serving up to other people, hey, like, you don't have to think that much of me because I don't think that much of myself. Like, you don't want people to advocate for you better than you can advocate for yourself. But like, I tell people all the time, you're on this conveyor belt. I will take whatever you give me through the residency match, through the fellowship match, and then it gets to your job and you're like, I'll take what you give me, and then you get taken advantage of, and then you burn out. Instead of being like, I bring tremendous value to you. I have this. What needs do you have? Let's see if the needs that you have match the desires that I have. And then let's see if we have a mutual fit.
That's awesome, because you're right. And I don't think you realize how many people don't make that connection, because we're in it. When you're on the conveyor belt, it's easy to get lost, and it's easy to listen to the echo chamber of everybody's in the same position, giving themselves each other advice, even though they have no idea where they're going. And so the only reason you and I are talking today is because I've chosen to step off of the conveyor belt a few times, and you guys can keep talking to amongst each other. I'm going to go talk to people who are doing what I think I want to go do. I'm going to get on the phone with them. This person did this, did not like it. This person did a research here. They loved it. Okay. This person says that the specialty I want to go into is killing them. And this one is saying that it's the best thing that ever happened to them. Let's make those distinctions. Or what are the nuances that make this specialty even feasible? Because I can do what I want with it in less time, or I'm not going to have time with my family, but oh boy, I'll be a big surgeon. Right. That's a huge reason why I wanted to bring you on. And thank you so much for sharing that, because it's a paradigm shift you got to this you got to this medical program. Don't put yourself in the position to take scraps from the match process. Be intentional about sell yourself. You said, I think we should take things from other fields. My take is that medicine is a sales process in part, and you're the product. You're selling yourself. And so if you got that dog mentality early, amazing. Good for you. If you figured it out later, awesome. But come into it kind of trying to navigate where you want to go and find your fit. How did you find your fit? Because you said you want to be big education. How did you find that? Because and that's a selfish question, because I'm struggling. I'm looking at residencies now. And I've been at enough different places. I'm like, I like this, but I don't like this. How do I know there's not a search, there's not a Google search for which programs have good culture. You know what I mean?
The closest to a guarantee, which is very far from a guarantee, is seeing who has gone ahead to do what you think that you want to do. Who is the closest to that path? And what did the program or the job or the workplace contribute to that success? So it's not a guarantee at all, because that's one person at the time that they were hired, under the management or the leadership, right? Like, all those things can change. But let's say this: I want to be a big E educator. I go around looking at institutions where there are big E educators in the same vein that I want to be. I go to them directly. I went to the big E educators that I knew and I connected through the things that I did. Because let's just say this: if you're let's rewind, and this is straight game right here, because if you rewind, you can actually change this process. If you say you want to be a big E educator, yet you haven't connected with other big E educators at the point where you need to, you should have done it sooner. Because doing the things that you say you want to do in the future is the best evidence that you're going to continue to do those things. If I said I'm going to be a big E educator and you look at my CV and there's nothing of education on there. There's no talks, there's no curriculum. I haven't gone to meetings. If I haven't even met the people, then someone's going to question, how much do you really want that? How much do you believe in what you say you believe in? So I think just knowing the people who are big E educators already is some element of, okay, you've invested some time. So you go to other people that you've met along the way and that have a position that you want or an idea of it. And then you say, how did you get there? How much of this was you? How much of this was being unlocked by the people around you, by the environment, by your boss, by the culture? And have them say, because if they say, oh man, I am so fortunate. I am blessed. I am lucky beyond measure because of all the things that fell in place. And I have a boss who's supportive. Their vision is to grow for this, blah, blah, blah. Then you're like, cool. Okay. A lot of those things are still similar now. Yeah. I can do that. But if they're like, it's been a grind. I mean, to be honest, like they didn't really hinder me, but they didn't really support it. They kind of like, do your own thing. And I had to do everything myself. Well, that still could be okay. If they give you if it's not a green light, but they give you a yellow light and they're like, go ahead, they just don't throw resources at you. Well, you just decide how much you want to do that. But if they're like, they were an active hindrance, this culture is actually really bad. I'm looking to make a move. I've been very successful because of the things that I've been able to do in my own time, blah, blah, blah. Now you know. So that's one way to go about it.
Right. Now, in connecting, and this is something that gets touched on pretty much every podcast, but did you network through social media or did you get creative with other online platforms or just people that you had come across along your journey?
Nothing online. 1000% in person. You might start a conversation online, but you build connection in person. Like, I think true connection, not LinkedIn connect with you. I think true connection is through interaction or time spent like this, online, or at least in an extended period of time. I think a new direction that I want to go, I'm thinking about all the different things that I think. I mean, I have different things in myself, like treat learners like future colleagues. Don't think about how you're doing good enough, but rather think about if you're doing enough good. And then the last thing is, in the age of AI, I want AI to truly stand for authentic interaction. And for me,
Let's go. Rebrand.
yeah, I think for me, looking back at my past, it was going up at poster fairs. One of my longitudinal mentors since residency in pediatric GI, big E educator, vice chancellor of GME at Pittsburgh. I met at a poster fair, went up, shook his hand, and said, "Tell me about your poster. This is really cool. I actually am really interested in education and see what you're doing here." Completely earnestly, had no idea he was a program director, had no idea who he was at the time. I just saw the poster and I was like, that's something like, that sounds like something I would love to participate in. Meaningful interaction and long-term relationship because of that. I think conferences I think conferences are amazing. They are the coolest professional opportunity that we could have if you're fortunate enough to go to them. And I would spend 80 or more % of your time meeting people and 20% or less in actual sessions.
Did you ever feel intimidated? I went to my first conference in orthopedics AOS San Diego in March, and I was shameless. Me and one of my colleagues, we would tag team people. We were like, okay, this person seems like they do interesting stuff. Let's go introduce ourselves. Go. And we would just like unashamedly, hey, we are so-and-so. We are from a DO program. You know, you're from Baylor. Can you tell us if we have a shot? Like that kind of stuff. Do you have any tips for just, you know, walking up to people and starting those conversations? I'm in agreement with you that online is a great resource, but there is a gap in programs that don't have the specialties people are interested in. It can be a little bit intimidating trying to bridge those gaps.
Yeah. I think like and right now people are more accessible than ever. So again, the online connection is really a chance to get a conversation. That's really what it is. Because again, it's time and investment. And going way back to the initial topic of mentorship, everyone should be screened to be a good mentor. And I think one of the best positive screens for a potential mentor is someone who invests time and energy into you before they are a mentor. So like, if someone spends the time to have a conversation with you and gives some insight and said, hey, maybe think about these things or something like that, even if it's brief.
Yeah.
That's a great mentor rather than someone who you're cold emailing to be a mentor. They don't have any connection to you. They don't know yet. They haven't invested any time or energy yet. I think that so you can do that outside of the in-person experience, but in person, I have a variety of tactics that I tell people about. Number one, a lot of people tell you to go up and introduce yourself. I tell people to get contacts, especially if you feel like you are building a connection pretty quickly. And the way that you can do that is by asking an open-ended question rather than a shot do I have. An open-ended question may be like, how do you think the training program builds future orthopedic surgeons here? You know, or like, how do you feel like the training program is able to build people leaving the training program at Baylor? Do you think they leave really confident and ready for the next step, whether it's fellowship or independent practice? Those are great conversations because now what do they have to do? They have to sell their program. What are they going to do? Say to a random stranger? No, they're not confident at all. No, they're going to say, yeah, heck yeah, they do. Right? Like,
we have the best.
Yeah, they do.
We have the best.
They sell their program. So put them on the selling foot. But ask them an open-ended question, have them invest some time, and then if they introduce themselves, and then you introduce yourselves, and then you have an open-ended question, they've interacted, then you feel like, okay, maybe I could ask, hey, I'd love, and then you set a false time constraint. So the problem with meeting a lot of people at a conference or when you're really busy is you don't want to sit around for 15, 20. You can't afford that. So instead, I would go up to you and be like, hey, Kaleb, really nice to meet you. I followed you online and I just wanted to ask you, I'm really getting into the space. I really wanted to ask you, blah, blah, blah. You invest and then say, I'm on my way to a session, but I'd love to continue this conversation if you have time later. Could I get your contact? you prematurely cut off the conversation
Yeah.
so that they know, shoot, I don't want to be nice and like, blah, 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 whatever. So you set a false time constraint. And then the last part, which is truly elevates, truly elevates, is what people do not teach at all, which is networking in the traditional sense. Going up, that's not networking, that's introductions. Introductions, it's very one-sided, it's very, very selfish, and it's one-sided. I'm going to go up and introduce myself to Kaleb to get his email so then I, for my own purposes, can connect with him. Instead of the way that networking should be. What is a network? A network is multiple points. Hi, my name's Paul. Kaleb, really nice to meet you. I wanted to introduce you. You're from Baylor? I actually just met a medical student who's really interested in moving to the Houston area. Could I connect you? Introduce your friend. So you want to introduce people you just met to someone else you just met. That's how you build your network. And now you're a connector of people. You're not just a consumer of people.
Yeah.
So I think
People
that's really important.
No, people don't understand. This is absolute heat, Paul. Because like when I was at that conference, female surgeons, that's a whole stratosphere of people in need of guidance and stuff like that. And I respect it. And I know a lot of amazing students and female surgeons. And then I was at the conference and I had a female colleague, and I saw one at a bigger institution, and somebody I've been doing research with. I was like, hey, go, we got to go. We got to go over here. I got to introduce you to somebody. Turns out they already knew each other, but watching them like, oh yeah, you exist. Like, oh my goodness. Wow. Oh yeah, we know each other from so-and-so. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And watching that relationship grow a little bit more was super helpful. I got nothing from it. I got absolutely nothing from it, but it was just so fun to watch other people connect. And that got me kind of addicted to that. The networking is like connecting other people. And, that's what we're doing here today, right? Is you and I didn't know each other, and here we are. It's like, okay, we've kind of been on similar journeys in different points. You're a little bit further ahead, and you're much more proliferative on the interweb. Props to you for that. But do you have any tips for a bald young Padawan trying to make his way? And I'm online to make an impact. Birkenstock commented on one of my videos the other day. I had been sitting on a video that I sent to a friend that was funny. Have you seen the Reno 911? The genuine ostrich. 3 payments.
No, I haven't.
New boot goofing. But when I got my first pair of Birkenstocks for rotations, I was like, this is the best purchase I've ever made. And so I just kind of pulled that out of the drafts and posted it. And next thing you know, it's got 12,000 views, and Birkenstock commented on it like, hey, put this hashtag and we have permission to use it. And I was like, cool. I said, of course. Awesome. Like, here's the hashtag, go for it. And I posted on my story, and everybody's like, do it if you get money. Do it if you'll get you a free pair of Birkenstocks. I'm like, I don't care. I don't make anything from this. I'm trying to make impact and do stuff like this. This is fun. This is exciting because I know that somebody watching this video that we're making right now is gonna benefit from it in some way, and that'll warm my heart. So do you have any tips to help people make that impact online?
Yeah, I would say the absolute biggest thing that I would say is consistency and precision of purpose. Those two things. Consistency is talked about a lot, but I'll just give you from my own experience. I have posted, I would say at the bare minimum, 3 times per week for going on 4 years.
Okay.
I had no plans of doing that, but I have maintained consistency. It's something I enjoy very much, and I've drawn a lot of inspiration from others. I find a lot of fun and release in the creative process, and that's why I can sustain. But people who prioritize virality over vitality fizzle out. And having a clear purpose, having a clear maybe goal, trajectory, if not purpose. The vitality and virality concept is really from the fact that a lot of people love views. Views are really exciting. Views, having something pop off and get hundreds of thousands or millions of views is very, very exciting. And it can be incredibly validating for the work that you're putting in. But if you're chasing that, you might not sustain over time. And I think about how I've stayed consistent, posting at least 2 times a week for the past 4 years. And that vitality of my platform remains, even though I've seen people who are much better creators who got a lot more initial success and exponential growth to even outpace my own growth and zoom past my own platform very quickly. I've seen them become flashes in the pan and they disappear. And I think it's maybe because of pursuing virality, maybe just because they lost interest and decided to do other things. But if you're starting out, I think prioritizing vitality, what is going to make this sustainable? What is going to make this enjoyable? What is going to be something that you gain from the process that you can take with you beyond social media? A skill or a goal like improving communication skills, for instance. I want to get better at asking better questions. I want to get better at articulating concisely. I think those are really valuable things that you can take beyond social media. So prioritizing vitality and then having that clear purpose. If your purpose is to impact someone who may be going through the same things that you're going through, fantastic. If your purpose is monetization, okay, that's a purpose. Fantastic. Think about ways then to make that sustainable for you long term, especially if you think that that's a long term thing. If you see social media as a business, which many people do, and that's perfectly okay, then you want to invest into making your business grow and successful and not just from squeezing as much as you can out of it. Because I don't think that's a good way to do business. I don't think that's how a lot of businesses, I don't know. I don't know much about the business world, but I don't think that that's something that would make sense to me. And I think as you're mentioning it, we've talked a little bit about it, but think about that purpose. If your purpose is not monetization and your purpose is something greater, for every opportunity that comes up, think, does this further the impact that I have or further my mission, my purpose in some way? Or is this really exciting right now? Could give me some monetary benefit, but at what cost? Then I'm chasing the rabbit a little bit of, I got one brand deal. I want a next. I want them to re-up with me. I want to keep doing this. And you kind of become a performer for the partnership rather than using it to further along your mission. Just some thoughts as I've reflected on my journey.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. Dude, I'm sure you could talk about that kind of stuff all day. And we've been on here for a while, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to talk about how other people in the medical field view what's happening right now between you and me. How people I've heard, through the grapevine that a lot of people in the field don't really approve of getting online and talking and monetizing or being sponsored or all this talk and yapping that we're doing. There's some negativity about it. And even from my own experience right now, I'm watching a lot of colleagues kind of, watch the journey and sit back and just, okay. And then when I see them in passing somewhere on a rotation or whatnot, hey, you trying to be an influencer? What's going on, man? And it's just there's a weird vibe that it may not be everybody's cup of tea. And so how would you kind of frame what you're doing or justify it if we should even be doing that to other people from the outside? Because for me, this is a creative outlet and I'm making an impact. I can't think of a better way to spend my limited free time, right? So how do you view that kind of stuff? The naysayers, the haters.
It's as simple as that. Is it something that you enjoy doing? Is it something that gives you life? Does it bring life to other people in the impact that you have? And on the impact on yourself, the self-care aspect, if it's not hurting someone else and they're judging from a seat of judgment and hoping that you fail, don't tune in. Don't watch. It's as simple as that. If you don't like the content or you don't like what I'm doing, don't watch it. And I know that people will talk all they want. For me, personally, my mission has always been greater than what people say about it. That's as simple as that. I know more than anyone, except for my wife, I know how much I think about improving the culture of medical education, how to pour into someone's experience, how to lift someone up, how to make someone that feels unseen seen, unconfident confident. I know how much life that gives me. I know how much I love to see the light bulb go off. I love to see someone say, wow, thank you. Just thank you for acknowledging me. You were the first person to say hello to me all day. Small little things like that make it worth it for me. So I noticed very early on that people didn't get what I was doing. I remember walking into an OR and an anesthesiologist was like, "Oh, I don't want you to film me. I don't consent to you filming me." And I'm like, I'm not a vlogger. I create scripted content. I create skits. I don't go around being like, I'm in the OR now, like with selfie mode.
Yeah.
So people just don't get it. And that's okay. You're acquiring useful tools that could serve potentially society and other people. So keep going until you don't want to.
Are you still making skits?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm saying because I see what you post, but are you nearing a point of like, I don't know if the skits are sustainable. I was talking about a friend with this. The whole reason I didn't get into skits is because we started back in middle school and the time sink we knew all the way back then in middle school that it takes so much energy to put together a scripted piece of content and then keeping it going if it hits. Oh my goodness, I can't imagine.
Oh, for me, I don't script. I have bullet points and I improvise. I would probably improvise 75 to 80% of my lines.
Awesome.
Or I have like an idea and then I just riff off of it. It is a huge time sink in terms of filming and editing. And, it's enjoyable, at least the format. Again, I love making the product. So if I branch out into other things, then we'll see what other styles could be fun to do. But
we'll see. But man, it's been an amazing talk, and the final, I promise, is the last thing I'll ask. But
I'll hold you to it.
What do you think is missing in medical education? Because you talked about there's things you want to fix, and you seem to be on a mission, and you're filling gaps. What is the gap in medical education? What are we missing the mark on? And I obviously want to be part of improving the lives of other learners and students and empowering them the same way I've been empowered by mentors. So where do you see that direction needing to go from your standpoint?
It's my mission. We don't see trainees. We don't see medical students. We don't see residents. We don't see fellows as our future colleagues, or we don't see them all the time like that. And not everyone does. And we don't treat them as such. So how would you treat a colleague? You would treat them with firm, hopefully, but kind feedback. You wouldn't be overly nice to them and just let things slide. You would say, hey, Kaleb, I got to hold you to this because these are our patients together, or this is reflective of our practice, our group, our hospital, whatever. Like, this is not okay. but I'm going to say it kindly, and because I know it's for the betterment of everyone else. It's not to attack you. So I don't coddle. You don't coddle your colleagues. You're not overly nice to your colleagues, but you shouldn't be rude to your colleagues. You shouldn't ignore them. You should empower them. You should encourage them. I'm not saying rah, rah, that we should all just be nice together and play and hold hands. No. We should strengthen each other. We should bolster each other. We should try to encourage each other everywhere we can. We should be kind, and kindness is not nice all the time. Kindness is honesty. We should be honest. And we should say, hey, you will be here at a certain point, maybe a lot closer than you realize. Here's how we can help each other now, so that when we're at that point, we don't have to worry about like, how do I bring this up with a colleague? I wish you had learned this when you were training, blah, blah, blah. I just think that we got to think about where people are going and not just where they are right now.
And not beating them over the head. Make them feel seen.
Okay. Well,
I was about to say it. Paul, thank you so much for joining us today. The last question I'll pose to you. Haha, gotcha, bonus. If there was a billboard that you could put on the side of the road, let's say for medical students, what would you want it to say?
I've also said this. Don't keep asking yourself if you're doing good enough, but ask yourself if you're doing enough good.
Awesome. All right, everybody. That's Paul Tran with elementary school. Follow him on IG. And look forward to what's happening in 2026. Big things.
Stay tuned. Thanks for having me.